Hello everyone, welcome to the Week 8 Class Connect write-up recording. And before we jump into the recording, I want to cover a couple of things. First thing is, I have an announcement here called Making a Passing Plan. We only have a couple weeks left in the course, and some of you are really struggling to get to the passing level. All you need to do is get to 595. Once you're at 595, you're guaranteed to pass. Anything less than this, you will not pass. So you need to get to 595. What I would suggest you do is take a look at how many points you have. So example, maybe if you have 235 points, then you take 595 minus 235 gives you 360. So that means how many more you need to get to a D. So then you go do the work to get at least 360. And of course, you may not get 100% on everything, so obviously you would need to do more than 360 points worth of work. Now, if you want to get a higher grade, then of course you could take 895 minus the number of points you have, 795 minus the number of points you have, and then that'll tell you how much more you need to do to get an A minus, get a B minus, C minus, etc. Now, taking a look at, so that's some instructions on making a passing plan. Now, here's the actual passing plan I've had posted for a few weeks now. And looking at this passing plan, what I've done is I've gone into assignments, selected assignments, and I've put the points possible and the points that you could earn possibly, and then you could still pass with a 135 points, which is 63.5, which is a D. So take a look at this. Early on, some of the easy assignments, get full credit on those hopefully. On this, like this exam, you might only get 40 out of 50, although you should get 100% on the exams, but 40 out of 50. And of course, all the write-ups, you should get 100% on all the write-ups. Those are easy to do. The finishing plan, 50 out of 50, you should get that with no problem. Some of the exams, of course, you might miss a little bit, even though I give the exam previews, right? So you should get all the points on all the exams. So as I move down, you can see that towards the end here, you don't necessarily have to do a lot of stuff, and you can still end up with 635 points. Now, the thing about this is that would mean that you would have to finish with the end of the class doing the Unit 10 exam, the Week 9 Class Connect write-up, the semester exams, etc. But here is a model for you to use to get 635 points, which would be passing. Of course, if all you want to do is just pass with a D, the lowest D, that would be 595, so that's actually 40 points less than this. So those are things that can help you pass, so there's really no excuse for you to not understand how you can pass the class. Okay, Week 8, here we are, February 25 to March 3rd. You can see that we're wrapping up the electronics communications unit, and we're doing sections 5 and 6 only in this wrap-up part. So section 5 is about security, and you have a project assignment here. Section 6 is about privacy and another project assignment, and then you have the exam. And of course, I always provide the exam previews for you, don't I? Let's scroll on down and get into this. So in Week 8, security. So we're going to start talking about computer security. You can see that managing your passwords is really important, and preventing a security breach, meaning somebody having access to your computer and your information. Those are important things. But it's really getting to be, people are much more aggressive, and companies and such are much more aggressive about trying to get your information. So we're going to look at different things you need to know. So in this section, we're going to look at the concepts related to trust, privacy, managing information, and also look at security of information in computing. So term information security, it's keeping electronic information secure, and here are 5 different examples of it. So it's going to be really secure if only one person has access. Information can be secure if a small group of people have access. Information can be secure if it requires a password, if it requires more than one authorization, or if it prevents modification. So if a person could just go in and view the information but not make changes to it, then that's secure. So here are 5 things that can be considered information security. The reason I mention that is when I go to the write-up, I say here, list what you think are the 3 most important concepts of information security. So out of those 5, I want you to list the 3 most important ones you think. Next, Now there's a story about a major security breach with Boeing, and as most of you know, Boeing manufactures airplanes and other heavy equipment like that. And what happened was this guy named Russ Jones, who worked for Boeing, he lost his laptop, his employee laptop. Well, when he lost that, he not only became a victim of identity theft, because somebody got his social security number and things like that off of that laptop, but it also compromised the information of 300,000 employees. So what Boeing had to do is Boeing paid for credit monitoring service for these 300,000 employees. So that might have cost, like, say it cost $100 a year for Boeing to do that. So that was $3 million or $30 million that Boeing had to pay out for the security breach. So you can see how it can be a major deal. Now the reason I mention this is because in the Class Connect write-up question, question number 2 says, what did Boeing do to assist employees whose information was stolen? So that's what Boeing did. They bought that credit monitoring service, and you've probably seen that advertised on TV or online, where they talk about, for a certain amount of month, and they'll make sure there are no changes to your credit history, nobody buys credit cards in your name, and different things like that. Now, passwords. You all know what passwords are because you have lots of passwords, right? You have passwords to get into your Insight classes. You have passwords for Study Island and those types of things. Now, some things about passwords, some problems with passwords. People write down at least one of their passwords. Another study showed that people use the word password as their password. So if I'm trying to break into somebody's account, now you know their username, I might start out with the word password and try that. Then I might start out as trying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or something like that, some common things. So here are 2 things that people should not do. So the reason I mention that is because that was the question, what are 2 things you should not do with passwords? I just talked about it, didn't I? Okay, think about different accounts you have. Estimate how many passwords you have to use. So take a look here. Look at all these different things, your cell phone, your voicemail, the computer you have for school, your home email password, if you have eBay, PayPal, all these different things, Facebook account, the PIN for your ATM, all of these things. How many passwords do you have? So that's that Class Connect write-up question, is think of everything that requires a password. And just write down how many accounts you think require a password. Now that doesn't mean the different passwords you have, because like me, I use the same password for a bunch of my accounts. So this is just the number of things that require passwords. So think about that. Your bank account would be one, probably. So that was that Class Connect write-up question. Page 8, give an example of a password that fits all the listed suggestions. So we're going to move on and take a look at this. This is really interesting. Here's some really effective rules for password. Make sure your password uses letters, numbers, and special characters. A lot of passwords will let you use special characters. At least 6 characters long. No common word, like the word password or the word fun or something like that. So don't use common words. Does not contain any information about the user, so your password having your birth date as a password would not be a good idea. And of course, it needs to be easy to remember. So on that Class Connect write-up question, I'm going to ask you to look at all of these rules and come up with a password that you could possibly use. Please don't give me which is your real password. So that was that Class Connect write-up question. And do not copy the example they have here, please. And of course, most passwords are case sensitive, so putting a capital on them is a good idea. So I go back to the write-up. So we just talked about that example of password that fits all those suggestions. And now page 11, social engineer. How do they get secure information from a person? We'll get to that. So common passwords. In fact, you can do a search online, and there are studies have been done. What are the most common passwords? 1, 2, 3, ABC is like 10% of the time people use that. In fact, I'm going to go. Let's see what I can find here. Let's go to Google. I'm just going to put List of common passwords. Let's take a look at this. Oops. Well, hopefully one of these will come through, right? So 25 worst passwords. Let's see if this website has anything. Well, I don't want to waste your time on this. I'll try one more link. Okay, let's see. So take a look at these. The word password, 123456, 12345678, ABC123, QWERTY, which is type of a keyboard, monkey, let me in, dragon. So you can see some of the passwords. Pretty bad, isn't it? So those are common ones. So security thieves, they can set up programs that can automatically input all those passwords time after time after time again, and give you an idea of what, and then possibly break into your accounts. So that talks all about passwords. And one thing down here, it says, some places require 6 characters, some require 8. What I do in those cases, I might use my standard password, but then if that requires 6, but then if it requires 8, I might put an exclamation point at the beginning and the end, or 2 exclamation points at the beginning. So there are ways you can use your regular password, like 6 characters, but then make it an 8-character password. There's some techniques with passwords. You can create a password protected list of passwords. There are websites where you can create that online. Write down a clue to remember your password. And obviously on the websites you can use Forgot My Password feature that some websites have. Let's go take a look at page 11, okay? So just more information about passwords. Hey, page 11, this talks about social engineering, which means that what social engineering means is that they don't use technical methods to get information, they just use like friendly methods to get information. So if you look at this guy calls into the help desk and Gina asks, how may I help you? And he sounds really frantic. His voice is, oh hey man Gina, I'm in a bind, I'm Scott, blah blah blah, I need to, I forgot my laptop, I need to get in. And she says, well, I need your employee ID. And of course he just fast talks her. So you can read through this. He just fast talks her into her giving him the information. So that's social engineering. So again, they don't use a technical method to get information. They just use talk. Just use their voice to sound convincing to get information. That's what social engineering does in this regard. Famous social engineers, you can read about these two guys and some of the things that they've done. This guy right here, based on the movie Catch Me If You Can, was based on something that he's done. Future with passwords, it might be face recognition, might have to your fingerprint, your hand, the iris, so your eye, or DNA, lots of different things like that. Of course, it wouldn't be passwords, it'd just be passes to websites, right, or laptops. So we looked at why passwords are important, methods to generate passwords, remembering passwords, and social engineering. The assignment for this, you're going to research and find an instance where password cracking or social engineering led to breach of information. That's not that Boeing. That was theft. That's different. If you have a personal example, use that personal example. It would happen to you or a family member or something like that. This says write a one-page double-spaced paper. I don't expect you to write one page, but I do expect a couple of nice paragraphs. So it might end up being like, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred words or something like that. But I don't expect a full page, but I do expect some good information. So click here for the document assignment. And you don't have to do this as a Word document. You can just type this into the text area of the chat box, or not the chat box, but the text area of the drop box. Turn it in that way. Okay, section 6. So section 6, now we're going to talk about privacy. So if we go back to the write-up and some of our questions in section 6, what is a virus? 3 tips to avoid getting a virus. So let's keep those things in mind. So now we're going to talk about privacy and how people can get your information without you knowing it. So how to use the information safely and legally, identify concepts with trust, privacy, and management of information, identify security concepts. So a virus. So a virus is a program that runs on your computer without your permission and maybe even without your knowledge. Of course, it can spread itself to other computers, and it spreads in a number of ways. Somebody can send you a file. It could be an attack over the computer network or through web page access. Avoiding detection. So the viruses, they avoid detection in a number of ways because they're getting more and more intricate, more and more smart. Essentially, the virus developers are, because people develop these programs that are viruses. And they're being so hard to detect that the virus companies like McAfee and others, they have to keep working hard to stop these viruses. Tips to avoid virus. Never open a file attached to an email unless you know who sent it to you. Now that can't always be the case because computers can unknowingly by the person, like Yahoo accounts. My wife the other day, her Yahoo account suddenly sent out emails to a bunch of people, everybody in her contact list. So just because it comes from somebody you know doesn't mean you should open it. Never run an executable program you copied off the web. That'd be like an exe program. Keep your operating system, your software up to date. Run a virus scanner, so keep that always up to date. If we go to the write-up, let's see, section 6, there's 3 tips to avoid getting a computer virus. Well, we just looked at about 6 tips, didn't we? Okay, on pages 6 and 7, explain how phishing can cause you to do something you should not on your computer. So now we're getting into phishing. You've probably heard this word before, but it's a part of social engineering. And what phishing is you get emails generally that look real, but they aren't. So example, like this is saying, hey, this is from PayPal, blah, blah, blah. And it says right here, so click on this link. Well, why would you click on a link that says curtisbogan.com? And that should say paypal.com/whatever. So never click on a link like that that isn't a legitimate link for whatever the company is. Because what would happen, you would click on that, and then that would probably gather information from your computer. Or it might take you to a page where you would put in personal information about your PayPal account. Now here's a sneakier. This looks like a very legitimate email, and clicking on this link sends you down a path that you don't want to go. You get to a page that looks like PayPal, so that's what would happen with this. So it looks like PayPal. And then what you can do, you can hover over this link and look at this information. That doesn't look to me like it comes from the PayPal website. It came from the PayPal website, and they would say paypal.com/blah, blah, blah. So even though they look like PayPal, and they have all the security stuff, it's not. So what phishing does is it makes you click on places you should not click, and then it takes your information once you go to the next page. Pop-ups, of course, you have pop-ups that come up on your computer, and pop-ups generally don't hurt. They're advertising, but then when you click on them, then it opens up another page and things like that. So now you see things come up on your computer that look like pop-ups, and when you hit the X to close out, then that actually opens it. So if you can have a good virus protector and a good scanning system on your computer, that can help solve pop-up problems. Pop-up versus adware. So we just looked at pop-ups. So pop-ups are generally harmless, but adware, that's software that runs on your computer, and then it puts pop-ups on your screen based on the websites you visit. So the program running on your computer would say, hey, they went to a skateboarding website. Well, I'm going to send them advertising about skateboards. So that's called adware. Let's go back to the Class Connect write-up and see what questions we have. We did the phishing one, and spyware is our last one. So that's called adware. Now spyware. Spyware is software that runs on your computer and it monitors how you use the computer. Sometimes it can control your computer, sometimes it can send information about your computer to some location. So spyware, you have to make sure you run your virus protectors, and most of those can stop spyware. So that's the answer to that last Class Connect write-up question. Firewalls are a way that your computer would be behind a firewall for protection. And most of you with home internet, you really don't have firewalls. Higher firewalls are more in businesses and things like that. So it would only let certain things in. Like some firewalls wouldn't let you play certain games and things like that. Summary. So how to get viruses, how it impacts you, what phishing is, pop-ups, and spyware. So we looked at all of those things. And the last assignment for this unit. Research find an incident when any methods mentioned in this section result in a breach of information security. So adware, spyware, those different things we looked at. So you're going to maybe do a search on Google for spyware plus information breach, and maybe find the information, or if you have a personal example. So this is different from the previous assignment. Again, it says one-page double-spaced, but I would be satisfied with 2 nicely developed paragraphs, maybe about what the example was and then what the result was. Those are 2 different paragraphs. And then you can just do it as text in the Dropbox. Of course, always look at here's the assignment document. So the assignment, it's stating the same thing. So really not any more information on that. So submit that assignment, review. Here's all the stuff that we looked at. And this is all for the whole section on electronic communications. And finally, you have the unit exam. And as always, the exam preview is right here for you. Go through the exam preview, find all the answers, then go do the exam, and you'll do so much better. So thanks for listening. I look forward to your work coming in. And if you're behind, get going, please. You really need to get caught up, and again, your target is 595 points. Once you get to 595, you're guaranteed to pass. So please get to 595. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.